What happens when Hollywood's most beloved star sits across from daytime television's most controversial voice, and the conversation spirals so badly it ends in a walk off no one expected? What you're about to hear became one of the most jaw-dropping moments in live TV history. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments, because this story is guaranteed to leave you stunned. The morning began like any other. At the View Studios in New York, Sandra Bullock arrived early, relaxed and smiling, prepared for what was meant to be a warm, promotional interview for her latest film. In the green room, she sipped coffee and reviewed talking points with her publicist, completely unaware that she was moments away from becoming part of television history. "Sandra, we're thrilled to have you," Whoopi Goldberg said as the cameras rolled. "Your new movie sounds incredible. Tell us about it." Sandra's trademark warmth filled the studio instantly. "Thank you for having me, Whoopi. This project means a lot to me. It's about second chances, about reinventing yourself when life throws unexpected curveballs." "That's beautiful," Sarah Haynes added. "What drew you to this story?" Sandra nodded thoughtfully. "We all hit moments where we feel like we've fallen as far as we can. This character reminded me that it's never too late to change course, to choose kindness over bitterness, and connection over destruction." The audience leaned in, clearly moved by her sincerity. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Everyone, it seemed, was on the same page. Everyone except Joy Behar. She sat quietly, eyes narrowed, studying Sandra with attention that hadn't been there before. Something in Sandra's words appeared to strike a nerve. Speaking of building bridges, Joy finally cut in, her tone sharp enough to shift the room instantly. "I want to ask about your recent comments on the entertainment industry. Some people think you're being a little naive about how Hollywood actually works." Sandra blinked, momentarily caught off guard. "I'm not sure what you mean, Joy. Could you clarify?" Joy leaned forward, a smirk playing at her lips. "This whole everyone can change idea, it's sweet, idealistic. But don't you think some people are just fundamentally selfish? Some people never change because they don't want to." The studio went silent. Whoopi shifted uncomfortably. The audience sensed it too. The warmth had vanished, replaced by a crackling unease. "I believe people are capable of growth," Sandra replied carefully, keeping her composure. "When given the chance to reflect and learn, most people choose to do better." "Most," Joy repeated with a dry laugh. "But not all. Some people double down on their worst instincts. They hide behind success and play the victim when they're the ones causing harm." Now all eyes were on Joy. This was no longer a standard interview, even by the View's confrontational standards. Something personal was fueling this exchange, and Sandra was clearly trying to understand what she'd walked into. "Joy," Whoopi tried gently, "maybe we should steer back to Sandra's upcoming—" "No," Joy interrupted. "This matters. Sandra talks about redemption, but what about accountability? What about the people hurt while someone is finding themselves?" Offstage, Sandra's publicist gestured urgently, but Sandra stayed calm. "I absolutely believe in accountability," she said firmly, "but I also believe that holding on to anger hurts us more than it heals. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, it means refusing to let it control who we become." "How convenient," Joy snapped. "Easy to say when you've got a perfect career and a perfect life. Some of us live with the real consequences of other people's choices." The tension was now undeniable. Camera operators hesitated, unsure whether to stay tight on the table or cut away. Something had gone terribly off script, and everyone in the room knew it. The audience sat frozen in stunned silence, watching what now felt less like an interview and more like a deeply personal reckoning unfolding live on air. "Joy," Sandra said calmly, though a steely edge had entered her voice. "I don't know what this is really about. But if you have an issue with me, perhaps it's something that should be addressed privately, not by attacking a guest who came here in good faith." "Good faith?" Joy echoed with a sharp, mocking laugh. "That's rich. You want to talk about good faith? Let's talk about the people in this industry who smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. The ones who climb to the top by stepping on everyone else, and then have the nerve to lecture the world about kindness and second chances." The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. This had veered far beyond spirited debate. Whatever Joy was unleashing had been building for years, and Sandra Bullock had somehow become the target. Sandra inhaled slowly, visibly centering herself. Joy, I came here to talk about my film and to connect with your audience. I don't know what personal grievances you're dealing with, but this is not the place to work them out. Personal grievances? Joy snapped, her voice cracking with indignation. You want personal fine? Let's talk about your so-called humanitarian work. Let's talk about how charity events double as photo ops, while some of us are actually trying to make a real difference. The accusation landed like a punch. Sonny Hostin's mouth fell open. Alyssa Farah Griffin stared at Joy as if seeing her for the first time. That's completely out of line. Sandra shot back, her composure finally beginning to fracture. My charitable work is something I take seriously, and I will not sit here while you question my motives without a shred of evidence. Evidence? Joy laughed harshly. I've been in this business for decades, sweetheart. I know how the game works. You show up to a few galas, write a check for the tax write-off, and suddenly you're Mother Teresa. Sandra's voice turned ice cold. What exactly are you implying, Joy? It means people like you think you're better than everyone else. Joy snapped. You float above the mess, talking about forgiveness like you're some kind of moral authority, while the rest of us are down here, dealing with reality. Where was that compassion when people needed it from you? The studio was dead silent now, no applause, no murmurs, only the low hum of cameras and the distant noise of traffic outside. Production assistants scrambled offstage, desperately signaling producers, but no one seemed able to stop the implosion. I honestly don't know what you're talking about, Sandra said slowly, but you either need to explain yourself or apologize for these baseless accusations. Apologize, Joy shouted. That's exactly the entitlement I'm talking about. You come onto my show, sit at my table, and expect me to smile while you promote another feel-good redemption story. It's not your show. Whoopi finally cut in, her voice firm and authoritative. And Sandra is our guest. You need to rein this in, now. But Joy was past listening. Something inside her had snapped. Don't tell me what to do, Whoopi. I've carried this show for years while everyone else gets the credit. I'm the one who asks the hard questions. I'm the one who calls out hypocrisy. What hypocrisy? Sandra fired back, anger now unmistakable. Say it clearly. Stop hiding behind vague accusations. Joy suddenly stood, her chair rolling backward with a sharp scrape that sent a gasp rippling through the audience. You want clarity? She said, trembling with rage. I'm tired of watching people like you get praised for doing the bare minimum, while people like me get attacked for telling the truth. I'm sick of the fake niceness, the manufactured sweetness that hides how cutthroat this industry still is. Joy, please, Sarah Haynes whispered. Sit down, but Joy didn't move, and in that moment, everyone knew. This was no longer an interview. It was a breaking point. No? Joy said flatly, stabbing an accusatory finger in Sandra's direction. I'm done pretending. I'm done smiling and playing nice, while people who don't deserve it get elevated to sainthood. You want to talk about your movie? Fine. Let's talk about how many other actresses you probably stepped on to get that role. Let's talk about how you benefited from a system that rewards people for looking a certain way and saying the right things. Sandra rose from her chair, her patience finally spent. I don't know what your problem is, Joy, but I will not sit here and let you attack my character based on whatever personal demons you're wrestling with. This is wildly unprofessional, and honestly, it's embarrassing for everyone. Embarrassing? Joy scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You think I'm embarrassing? That's rich coming from someone who built her entire career playing the wholesome girl next door, while probably being anything but when the cameras were off. The accusation was so pointed, so completely unfounded, that the room froze. Even Joy seemed to realize she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But instead of retreating, she surged forward, her face flushed with anger and something close to desperation. You want to know the real problem? Joy pressed on, her voice shaking now. People like you get to coast through life, celebrated for your supposed goodness, while people like me get labeled difficult for telling the truth. I'm done being the villain just because I refuse to live inside a fantasy. No one asked you to be anything but professional. Sandra replied evenly, though anger burned beneath her calm. What you're doing isn't truth-telling. It's cruelty disguised as honesty. The words hit Joy like a physical blow. Her face twisted with rage. For a brief terrifying moment, it looked as though she might lunge across the table. Security along the edges of the studio shifted uneasily, uncertain whether to intervene. Cruelty. Joy shot back, her voice trembling. You want to see cruelty? Cruelty is watching people get ahead, not because they're better, but because they know how to play the game. Cruelty is watching fake humility get rewarded, while real voices are punished. Sandra shook her head slowly. You don't even know me. You're attacking a stranger based on assumptions, projecting your anger onto someone who doesn't deserve it. That's not authenticity. That's just sad. The word sad seemed to fracture something inside Joy. Her face drained of color, then flushed red. Her hands trembled. Sad, she repeated, barely holding herself together. You think I'm sad? I've been in this business since before you were even relevant. I earned my place here through decades of work, not by playing some lovable character audiences fall for. No one is questioning your place here? Whoopi tried again. Yes, they are. Joy shouted, spinning toward the table. Everyone does. Every review, every article, every smug little post online. I'm always too harsh, too difficult, too much. Well, maybe I am too much for this sanitized version of television where we all pretend everything is fine. Sandra watched her, concern now overtaking anger. Joy, this isn't about television or the industry. This sounds like something much deeper than what's happening here today. Don't psychoanalyze me, Joy snapped, whipping back toward her. You don't get to sit in your perfect little bubble and tell me what my problems are. You don't know what it's like to fight for every opportunity, to claw your way up in a world that wants you quiet and agreeable. Actually, Sandra said softly, I do. Every woman in this industry does. But taking your frustration out on other women isn't fighting the system, it's helping it survive. The words landed hard. For a brief moment, Joy's fury flickered, replaced by something else, something unsteady, almost like recognition, and the studio held its breath. But instead of backing down, Joy seemed to sink even deeper into her fury, as if accepting the truth in Sandra's words would be unbearable. You think you're so wise, Joy sneered, venom dripping from every syllable. You think you have all the answers just because you've managed to stay popular. Let me tell you something about relevance in this business. Sometimes it means being willing to be the villain. Sometimes it means saying what everyone else is too afraid to say. And sometimes, Sandra replied with devastating calm, just means being cruel to people who don't deserve it. That was the breaking point. Joy's face twisted with raw rage. She reached for her microphone pack and tore it off, yanking so hard the wire snapped freed. You know what? I'm done, she shouted. I'm done with this show. I'm done pretending I care about the opinions of people who wouldn't last 5 minutes in the real world. And I am especially done being lectured by someone whose biggest struggle is choosing which charity gala to attend. The studio erupted into chaos. Producers scrambled, debating whether to cut to commercial. The audience gasped and murmured. The other hosts sat frozen as Joy continued her tirade. I quit, she announced, her voice carrying across the studio. I'm done being the lightning rod for controversy, while everyone else plays it safe. I'm done being the bad guy just because I'm willing to ask the questions no one else will. Joy, please, Sunny Hostin finally said, her voice unsteady. Sit down. We can work this out. You're just having a moment. A moment? Joy laughed bitterly. This isn't a moment. This is decades of frustration boiling over. I've watched this industry reward mediocrity and punish honesty for years, and I'm not pretending anymore that it's okay. Sandra stood slowly, her dignity intact despite the storm around her. Joy, she said quietly, I genuinely hope you get the help you need. But what just happened here wasn't honesty. It was an unprovoked attack on someone who came here in good faith. That isn't brave. It isn't authentic. It's just wrong. Joy stared at her, chest heaving. For a split second, something flickered across her face, shame perhaps or regret, then it vanished, replaced by defiance. Save your sympathy, Joy spat. I don't need help from someone who thinks forgiveness fixes everything. Some things can't be forgiven, and some people don't deserve second chances. With that, she turned and stormed off the set, leaving behind her notes, her coffee mug, and more than 2 decades of television history. The cameras kept rolling. The remaining hosts sat in stunned silence. The audience didn't know whether to clap or remain still. Sandra slowly took her seat again, visibly shaken but composed. I'm sorry your audience had to see that, she said softly to Whoopi. That was clearly about something much bigger than anything I said today. Whoopi nodded, still processing. Sandra, on behalf of the show, I apologize. That was completely unacceptable, and you handled it with more grace than anyone should have had to. Moments later, producers finally cut to commercial, ending one of the most explosive segments in daytime television history. Joy Behar had walked away from The View in the most dramatic fashion imaginable, leaving behind a legacy forever marked by a single, unforgivable outburst. What do you think about this confrontation? Was Joy completely out of line, or was there a truth buried beneath the anger? Subscribe for more shocking television moments, and share your thoughts in the comments below.